What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of Bogey Free. We are coming at you with a little bit of a different schedule this week. It's Tuesday night, and I'm used to talking about PGA on Tuesday nights with Evan, but we're hitting the NFL early this week. We're going to quickly go through the Thanksgiving slate and then talk about the main slate a little bit. And as always, I am joined by Steve Holupka. You can find him on Twitter at @TheRealHolupka. What's going on, Steve?
Oh man, it's super early to be talking about NFL DFS, but you know what? There's a job to do, and someone's got to do it, and those two guys are us. So let's get to it, man.
Let's get after it. So we have a 3-game slate on Thursday for Thanksgiving. Minnesota, Detroit at the 12:30 game. I almost said Los Angeles Clippers because I saw LAC. Los Angeles Chargers at Dallas at 4:30, and then our woeful Giants coming off a huge win in Washington.
Total waste of a win, but whatever.
So I guess we could just quickly go through it. I mean, we're talking about 6 teams here, so not a whole lot to dive into. Dak coming off a pretty god-awful performance. I don't know. Where are you thinking for QB? I mean, I guess we could talk about real quick, I guess, sort of game theory and whatever. First, for the Thanksgiving slate, how do you attack, shorter slates like this if it's like only a few games?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not playing a ton of cash on short slates. I'll do a bunch of single entry tournaments, just because you'll get that chance to differentiate yourself, I think, more in single entries versus the big field GPPs. It's just there's not enough of a player pool to really make that difference. But that being said, I mean, there are going to be a couple of chalkier plays that you're going to want to have in your lineup to have that baseline. To differentiate yourself too much with some, 1%er plays, probably not the best bet, just because, especially in those, single entries, it's going to be tougher for you to really make hay there without having those strong baseline plays in your lineup.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of we've talked about it before. I think I don't really play like the primetime slates and stuff like that too much. I usually just stick to the main slate or Thursday through Monday. But when I do play smaller slates, I typically am more likely to sort of game stack and really throw like a ton, from one game into something and just hope for the best rather than sort of go way off the board in a couple of spots. I mean, it's usually pretty simple to fit who you want in on a smaller slate for the most part. As long as it's not like a Pittsburgh or a New England or someone like that. So that's kind of where I end up landing. So, that's the only, those are the times that I've had the most success, just really hitting on a game the right way and just watching the points roll in and then hoping for the unders in the other games.
That's basically. Right. There you go. Fingers crossed for all those unders.
Exactly. So where are we going at quarterback on Thursday?
Quarterback, yeah. I mean, Kirk Cousins is 7,100. The only thing that scares me off of Kirk is that the Giants, for some reason, just show up when they want to show up, and we saw that last week against Alex Smith. So if Janoris Jenkins decides he wants to play that week and DRC, show up against Washington, I think his price tag might be a bit high. The big question when it comes to Dak is if Tyron Smith is playing or not. So there are conflicting reports out there now if he'll play or if he won't play. We saw from this past week, it's just an absolute joke when anybody besides Tyron Smith is playing left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, especially against like the duo of Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. Like that just it scares me to death from Dak. I mean, Rivers looked really good last week. I think Rivers is going to be in the majority of my lineups. He looks fresh, he looks rejuvenated. Keenan Allen like a world beater. So I'm really excited about him. And even though they're all playing on a short week here, Dallas did have the Sunday night game, so that those extra few hours of rest and relaxation can make a difference, especially when you're playing against a high-powered offense like the Chargers. So I think I'm really digging Rivers this week for 6,100.
Yeah, I think Rivers makes a lot of sense, and I mean I guess since it's only 3 games, we can kind of bounce around a little bit here. Just talking about the Chargers. I'm not like totally against sort of getting a little bit away from Keenan. Obviously, you have to have some exposure to him just because he looked unbelievable last week.
Great. Yeah.
And my fucking dumbass couldn't get onto him, right? Had to him and Thielen. I just couldn't figure out a way to do it, even though I knew it was the right play. I suck.
Well, you have the opportunity now to make up for it because you have them both on the same slate.
Yeah, now they're now Keenan Allen is going to be like the chalkiest of chalks this week.
Right.
But I think, you're looking at guys in Benjamin, in Tyrell Williams, who really just need a play, right? I mean, they're 35 and 3,400. You get one play from them, one bomb touchdown, and you're looking at lower ownership and basically paying off value. And if they somehow get a few extra targets as well, I think that can make some sense in tournaments. As far as running backs go, are we willing to deal with whatever the hell is going on with Melvin Gordon, or are we paying down a little bit?
I mean, Gordon looked halfway decent. Like in the carries he got, he actually had some explosive runs. Scored the touchdown. It was just they were up by so damn much against Buffalo and that scrub Nathan Peterman. Like it's
so bad.
He was so awful. He had 5 interceptions. Yeah. I think JJ put out a tweet. He had more interceptions in the first half than Tom Brady's had in the last 2 years. Like it's stupid. Like how terrible he was. Now, obviously, Dak won't be that bad this year, so the game script shouldn't get out of hand. But again, Gordon's one of those safer floor plays, but he's 8,100. Right. So I think there are a bunch of other running backs that are in play. I mean, Samaje Perine, if he does play, I know he's got that big questionable tag on him right now with a finger, I think it is right now. But I mean, he's looking for at least 20 touches against the Giants team that still is not great against the run, with Chris Thompson going on IR. So I think Perine's in play at 5K. Typically, you do want to stick with some of those pass-catching backs. With like Jerick McKinnon should have more value than Latavius Murray, even though Latavius Murray's been just running over dudes the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm hoping people go like full on recency bias with Latavius this week, because I wouldn't mind having McKinnon at slightly lower ownership this week based on that game, on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it too, like game scripts the last couple of weeks, Minnesota's been up big. They've been milking the clock. They've been trying to ground and pound it. If the Lions can stay with them and really have a competitive game, and what Vegas is telling us is that's going to be a competitive game. It's a 3-point spread right now, with Minnesota the slight favorite. So if Detroit's able to stick with them, McKinnon should get some more love and some more opportunity against the Detroit rush defense in front that's been absolutely terrible the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then are you interested in either of the Detroit running backs, or is that just a stay away against Minnesota?
It'd be Theo if I'm interested in any one of them. I think Theo Riddick might be the only one at 3,600. Again, going to be a lower owned play just because he's not. I mean, he's the pass catcher, obviously there, but that running game against Minnesota it shouldn't do very well. So you can of course tell yourself the game script where, hey, Minnesota or Detroit's down, they have to make some plays. Abdul's on the sideline. Riddick has to be in there for some hurry up offense.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense too. I think I'll probably have some exposure to Riddick like Thursday to Monday. And lock in that 3,600 is pretty nice to be able to lock in. And I don't know how popular the Thursday to Monday slate will be this week. I think a lot of people will gravitate towards just the Thursday and then the main slate and sort of miss out in between. So I don't know if that means sharper guys Thursday to Monday or what, or girls, sorry. But yeah, so I think that could make a little bit of sense and open some things up on the main slate. And then wide receiver, you just got to go Thielen, Goat, and Allen, right? Like that's just print money.
I think they're the first two guys I'm plugging into my lineups. Yeah. Like it's just the production from these two. Obviously, there's a bit of recency bias because Keenan Allen didn't do shit before last week. Like he's been so bad the last 4 weeks, but he just looks so good. His agility is back. His quickness is back. He was looking great, and then Thielen just torches everybody, like just burning by dudes on comeback routes. It's just crazy. So he's nuts. And then the other guy I'm looking at for 5,400, Jameson Crowder. Like the volume's there. Their outside receivers are total trash. I know he might be facing DRC in the slot, but over the middle is how you beat the Giants. And between Crowder and Big Vern, I like those two plays as well on Washington.
Yeah, for sure. I think Crowder will see. It'll be interesting to see if he gets a little bit of a bump in those short routes with Thompson going down as well. I think that could be a thing potentially. And then you mentioned Vernon Davis. Like, if you're not playing Vernon Davis this week, assuming Reed is out, which I think that's a fair assumption. I don't think he practiced yesterday. If you're not playing Vernon Davis against the Giants, then you're paying the rake this week, I would imagine. Like it was a bad, like the Chiefs played horrifically and Kelsey still got there at 7,300 or whatever he was. Like this is an easy decision. I don't know what the hell to do with Ingram because I'm so tilted that he only had 6 targets last week with Shepard that I can't even. I don't know. I have no read on what's going on there because it seems like the 2 smash games for Ingram this year, he didn't see the volume that he's been seeing when other guys have been around. So I don't get it.
Yeah, I know it's fascinating there. I mean, this would be like the spot to come back to him. I feel like, roster both tight ends, even though Ingram's 6,100 and the highest price tight end on the board. I think that might be a spot. You play Riddick, one of the other RBs, and then go Ingram Davis just because they're both in awesome spots. And Washington's terrible against tight ends too. So that matchup looks really nice.
Absolutely. All right. So I think that pretty much does it for the Thursday slate. Unless you have a really strong defense take for Thanksgiving.
Only if Tyron Smith doesn't play, then I'm like all in on the Chargers. But if he does play, then I think you can mix and match. I mean, Stafford's going to throw some picks, but he's also an absolute monster on Thanksgiving. Right. He's averaging like 330 yards and 2.5 touchdowns on Thanksgiving. So playing Minnesota, even with Everson Griffin back, is no cakewalk by any stretch.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Like I said last week, I'm completely done forecasting defenses. I have no. It's just not worth it to me. Like the amount of brain power it takes for me to put out like the 6 or 7 articles that I've been trying to crank out every week. I'm like, defense is just not going to happen ever. It's just not. All right, so why don't we shoot over to the main slate? I guess it's 11 games on the main slate this week. Oh man, just this spread for the Patriots and the Dolphins game is
crazy.
Open at 17. Like, I mean, Tom Brady's 7,700, which is, I think, reasonably prohibitive, compared to recent weeks. We've seen like 72, 73. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to play him in tournaments if you're making a bunch of lineups, but what are we thinking for cash on the main slate this week? Are there any QB values, or are we paying all the way up for somebody? What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, you would love to pay up for Brady, but just it's so damn tight that to fit that 7,700 in a quarterback, just too difficult. I really like, if you're going to pay up, I really like Russell Wilson, actually. They've really unleashed him as a playmaker for that offense. He's running the ball well. He's scoring touchdowns on the ground, let alone, taking deep shots to guys like Paul Richardson and even making Jimmy Graham very relevant again, too. So if I'm paying up at quarterback, I think it's Russell Wilson. But there's good options, man, all over the place. Like, I can go down and play Cam, who's just been an absolute monster the last couple of weeks at 66. I know he's playing at the Jets, who have been an okay defense. But Cam has just been stomping people right and left. I want to get your take, though. How much will you have of Marcus Mariota this week playing in Indy, like on the fast track with that offense?
I mean, I want to trust it. I'm still recovering from the Tennessee at Cleveland debacle from a few weeks ago. But I think what was it, Thursday night they played Pittsburgh?
Yeah, they got the mini bye. Yeah,
showed some life. Has a little bit of had a little bit more pep in his step. It seemed like. I think he had a rushing touchdown. And yeah, I mean, coming off a sort of long week, against that defense. And yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at it at all. Sort of a middle of the road total for them. But yeah, I think I'm a big Mariota guy anyway. So any chance I get to roster him, if I think he's going to be reasonably healthy, I think that makes some sense against Indy, who, I mean, got to be like bottom 3, like scariest defense right now, probably.
Yeah, they're a total mess. I mean, they're a total mess. And on the opposite side too, Jacoby Brissett for 5,400. I mean, we saw just what Pittsburgh did. They did whatever they wanted to do in the passing game. I mean, Brissett, I think for 5,400. I don't think it's a cash game play, but I think he is definitely worth GPP exposure this week. I could definitely see him T.Y. Hilton stacks run it back with like Rashard Matthews or Corey Davis.
Yeah, and I mean, both Indianapolis and Tennessee have given up 6 and 7 games where they let the opponent reach their Vegas total. So not exactly defenses that are scaring anybody. And thinking about that and seeing the total opening at 44, I think that might be a little bit low. I think I might be heading over to my bookie and booking that for an over right now.
There you go.
Other than that, I don't know. What are you thinking about Dalton? Like, what are we doing with him?
Man, like someone put a tweet out today saying he threw for like 13 touchdowns and no picks the last few outings against Cleveland, and you want to believe in Andy Dalton. It's just for $6K, I think I'd rather pay up the 300 or 400 extra bucks and go Matt Ryan or Marcus Mariota. Ryan's a 10-point home favorite against Tampa, whose past defense we've seen just be putrid. I think it's GPP worthy only, even though they're a big favorite at home against the Browns.
Yeah, I think the only way I'm rostering Dalton is just I'm going with AJ and Croft and Dalton in a lineup and throwing them all together. It's a lower total. I think it's the lowest on the slate as far as I'm seeing. So obviously, just to pay 400 extra bucks and get 11 extra points in the over under, I think is probably worth it to get up to Matt Ryan. That'll definitely be a higher scoring game, but I think you have a pretty good shot at, say Dalton throws 3 touchdowns and one of them to Green and 2 to Croft probably against Cleveland, because even fucking Mercedes Lewis scored last week.
Unbelievable.
Like, it's just
crazy.
It's almost like they're doing it on purpose. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so ridiculous that it's almost like a parody of itself at this point, how bad they are against the tight end.
That's insane. It really is.
And then we have, I do want to bring it up. It's everybody's getting fired in this Denver-Oakland game, right? All the coordinators are getting shipped off to pasture. So, are you interested in Carr at all? Have you seen those chinks in the armor for Denver's defense, or are you staying away still?
Well, I mean, it's been one guy, right? It's been Bradley Roby. That's been the issue on that opposite end of Aqib Talib, where people just been torching him the last few weeks. Carr and that offense it's such a weird situation for them right now. I know New England's been playing better on defense, but I kind of want to see it first for Oakland, and then if Cooper and Crabtree have a big game, then I might go back to Carr. But for right now, I think I'm holding off. But on the opposite side of that, we know the Raiders defensive coordinator, Ken Norton Jr., just got fired. And it seems like a lot of their defensive players aren't very happy about that, including Bruce Irvin. What about Paxton Lynch? Name the starter. We're 4,400.
I mean, he would have to be like 2,400, I think.
So much hate.
It's rough. I mean, the dude couldn't get healthy enough. Like, the way that my shoulder is, I should be able to play over Trevor Siemian and Brock Osweiler. Like, I don't know. I will absolutely have one lineup with him, just because if I miss out on Paxton Lynch at 4,400 going off, I'll really lose my shit. But I don't know, man. That's a ballsy It's a ballsy move. It's almost as ballsy as playing Oakland's defense, which I can't do either.
I can't. The defense is so bad. Like I said before, the coordinator change with some of that internal angst, so to speak. It just I can't do it. It's just a mess.
Yeah, I think this game goes way under, and I think it's just going to be gross to watch. Hopefully, you're still in like a turkey coma, or as Levitan would say, like a bird carcass coma.
That's right.
Other than that, you have any other conviction on any of these quarterbacks?
I think those are the major names. I mean, the thing with New Orleans and LA, like a huge over/under total for the week. It's 53.5 right now. So we're expecting a back and forth game, but Goff just lost Robert Woods for a couple weeks. So I'm kind of apprehensive about Goff. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's Sammy Watkins week. It's fine.
Could be.
It's all good.
If Lattimore's out, man, this is like the last Sammy Watkins chance for the season.
I know. I'm so tilted on that. Like, it's just so funny that it's Robert Woods who sort of like supplanted Watkins when everybody was just like shitting on Woods. Like, how is he going to be a wide receiver 1 in Los Angeles? And then they both end up on the same team and he just completely outperforms them. It's so great.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And Breeze has actually been, has sort of shaken off those home road splits this year. I don't have it in front of me after last week, but it was a lot closer than like the putrid home road splits that we've come to expect from him. So that'll be, they are away, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. No, you're right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that makes a little bit of sense in a tournament as well. Not touching him in cash. I think I'm probably leaning towards Matt Ryan in cash this week, which is a scary proposition, but what are you going to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like quarterback, you're looking for like 250 and 2 touchdowns, and I think Matt Ryan can do that. I mean, all his weapons are healthy. Besides Devontae Freeman, he might even play, so I think it's a good chance.
Yeah. So as we were just talking about the New Orleans Rams game, we have Todd Gurley as the most expensive running back this week up at 8,800 actually this week, which is a little bit higher than last week, you could say. Are we able to jam him in, or are we staying away?
Oh man, I mean, New Orleans' run defense has not been good, and you love that should be a fast-paced game. There's a bunch of other options I think I like right below them though. So if you're going to pay down to like Paxton Lynch a quarterback, then yeah, throw Todd Gurley in there. Why the hell not? But if you're going to play a medium-priced quarterback like Matt Ryan, I think there's better options, and you could save a couple $100 here or there.
Yeah, I think he's probably a tournament-only play at that price for sure. As we sort of hit, I'll cheat a little bit. I was going to say 8K and up, but I'll go 7,900 and up because there's just a huge drop-off after that. We have Kamara at 7,900, Hunt at 8K, Fournette at 8,100, Ingram at 83, and Shady McCoy at 8,500. So are we feeling anybody here for cash?
I mean, I like a lot of these backs actually. Probably the least in on Leonard Fournette. Just the matchup at Arizona is not an easy one. The Arizona run defense has actually been really good these past few weeks. So I'm kind of out on Fournette again, and we also his ankle is supposedly healthy, but we really don't know there. The rest of these backs, so I think you can kind of mix and match. I like them all in varying degrees. I know Ingram's got a tougher matchup with the Rams, but both he and Kamara have just been so consistent and so good throughout the entire year that I would not be opposed to you rostering either one of those guys in cash. And then, I mean, Shady is just so involved in this offense, and probably the last one really standing there because Kelvin Benjamin has that knee issue now, and he's being involved so much at 85 against one of the worst rushing defenses in the league in Kansas City. You had to kind of love it, even though they're big-time dogs. We saw him get a passing touchdown last week even, so it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's
so many options.
Right, exactly. That's kind of where I'm shaking out as well. I think that, I mean, granted, it's Tuesday night. I'll probably have a little bit more conviction and sort of narrow it down a little bit. But as things stand right now, I think that I'll probably be just sort of spreading it out and hoping to hit, the rest of my lineup with one of these guys if I'm paying up this high. And then, like I mentioned, there's just a huge drop off, right? Like Kamara's at 7,900, and the next running back is 6,900 in my boy Christian McCaffrey. So, in this 6K range, anybody jumping out to you? I think I know where you're gonna go, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to depend again on Devontae Freeman if he's healthy. Tevin Coleman for 6,500 would be my only choice here. McCaffrey, we don't know what his role is going to be now with Greg Olsen coming back, so that kind of takes me off him in cash games, especially. Ajayi still isn't really leading the way in touches. They still put LeGarrette Blount in the game this past weekend for some reason, and Corey Clement got work. Like, Philly's just not giving the love to Jay Ajayi like they should be after he's breaking off those huge runs on some great plays. And Jordan Howard's in a really shitty matchup against Philly. Like, I don't want to touch Jordan Howard this week at all. So if I'm going with one guy in that range, I think it's Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think as much as Howard just sort of bounced back, this is not the game. Like, they're underdogs by almost 2 touchdowns, and they're in Philly. So no, thank you. As we keep going down, I mean, I would assume that we have to go DeMarco Murray here, maybe. But I don't know.
Like Murray, he's the one who's getting the most work, right? So you love his workload for Tennessee. Just he sucked. Like, he hasn't been good. Like, if you watch him play, he's just not a good football player at this point. Derrick Henry is a much better football player. I mean, he's great at 5,200, and you expect them to win this game, and you expect them to be heavily involved, but I'd rather pay down a couple $100 more and go to a guy like Dion Lewis, who's in a total smash spot against Miami. We saw what Christian McCaffrey did to this team, and Dion Lewis is equally as elusive and scary in the open field. I can imagine Kiko Alonso like tripping over himself trying to go and cover Dion Lewis out in the flat and like just falling on his face. So I kind of like Dion Lewis for 48.
Yeah, I mean, if a a scrub like Christian McCaffrey can get there. If a scrub like Christian McCaffrey can get there, then obviously Dion Lewis can. Sorry, I just had to throw that.
I know it's okay. It's your brand, man. Got to represent.
I know it's not looking great for me on that front though. But I do still maintain that they overpaid for a fucking slot receiver, basically. But whatever. As we keep going down, I mean, again, it's Tuesday night. Things can happen in the meantime, but are there any real like super deep dart throws that you're seeing that I'm sort of missing here? Because I don't know, man. There's a couple, 4K guys maybe, but this is kind of rough.
Yeah, I know it's definitely a rougher bit near the end here. I mean, I could see Damian Williams or Kenyon Drake in play, being on the opposite end, and Williams has caught a bunch of passes for Miami the last couple weeks. So for 43 and 4,400 respectively, I think you could potentially roster them on the back end of a New England stack, just to kind of get some differentiation, because you'll have super leverage over people playing like Jarvis Landry in that game.
Right.
A little bit lower on the list, like we said, Philly's a huge favorite here against Chicago, so I think Terry Cohen might be in play at 3,800. Again, he's at kind of the pass catcher there. We actually saw him get in the end zone this past week as well. So I think they're trying to figure out how to get him back in the offense. And if they're down by double digits throughout this game, who else can you get the ball to? Like, right. Dontrell Edmonds not going to be doing anything against Darby. Like, Shaheen maybe it's Adam Shaheen. But besides that, like, Terry Cohen's their only other playmaker on this whole team.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking too. I mean, there's no Rex Burkhead this week, right? Like, there's no 3,600 guy that you're just like, I have to get in. And that was so I can't, never mind. That was so fucking tilting this weekend. I can't.
He fumbled, man. That was the thing. He fumbled once. They took him off the field and never really put him back. It sucked.
I was like, as soon as that happened, I was just sitting here, and one of my wife's friends came over, and we were just like having dinner. And as soon as that fumble happened, I literally was just like, I gave the girls the remote, and I was just like, you guys can put on whatever you want.
Oh my God.
Seriously, I didn't watch any football after that fumble. I was like, I can't sit here and get aggravated and scream at the TV with my wife and her friends here. I was like, I just need to stop. So, Oh fuck, man! This week sucked. We gotta get back onto it this week. So, as we shoot over to wide receiver, AJ Green in a real good matchup. He's at 8K. Can we afford him this week? What do you think?
I think you can afford one of the high-priced wide receivers. I think you can with some of the, if you're really going to pay down at running back and maybe pick one of those 4K guys or maybe even lower 5K guys, I think you have a chance. So whether it's AJ Green, an awesome matchup, he's going to be facing Jason McCourty for part of it, I'm sure, but not the entirety of the game. So I think Green's in play. Julio and Evans are both in play at 77, 7,400. I mean, all these top receivers are really in play here. Even Michael Thomas and I like Brandon Cooks a lot here too. I mean, after we saw last week, I know his price increased a bit here, but for 71, man, I could easily see Cooks have a similar game to what he had last week.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely in the range of possibilities here. Like that defense is just loves to leak out these big plays. So I'm fully on board with that. Yeah, I kind of agree with you, right? Like up at the top here, I think that they're all, I mean, just fit in what you can fit in, like don't go crazy to get up all the way to AJ Green. Cause I think most of these guys are in similar spots. Like I don't think you have to go nuts and really make like crazy decisions throughout the rest of your roster to get all the way up to AJ Green. I think you can play Julio. People think for some reason that he's just like dog shit now. Like, I mean, I get it, but I don't think that he is as bad as sort of the optics have been on him lately. So, if you can get him at slightly lower ownership, I think that's a reasonable play.
We've been saying that for the last 4 weeks. Julio lower ownership just because the public is like such against it, looking too low. It's crazy.
Exactly. It's just it's very interesting seeing Julio Jones Twitter because it's just people are so him and Amari Cooper have been like very interesting case studies this year on like people's opinions about things. And then as we sort of get to 7K and below, I don't know. I feel like this is a week where I'm going to really sort of expand my wide receiver pool because I think there's quite a few interesting guys in decent spots. Are you going to Doug Baldwin this week in San Francisco?
I would want to. The only thing is with Baldwin, he hasn't been the complete and total focus of that offense anymore. Since
Right.
Jimmy Graham's really kind of reemerged himself, Baldwin's still definitely seeing a good share of the targets. It's just he's not the guy. Jimmy's getting a lot of red zone looks. Paul Richards is doing a great job on the outside with Tyler Lockett. I mean, for 7K, I'd rather spend the 71 up for Cooks or spend down the $100 and go get Tyreek Hill, who's in a great comeback spot against the defense that doesn't want to play football anymore. I'd rather have those two than Baldwin. And as you look down, I mean, there's a ton of great options here. This is like a classic T.Y. Hilton smash spot. Yep. At home against a defense who just can't stop anybody in the secondary. So I'm liking T.Y. Hilton at 6,700. You go a bit further down than that. I mean, Alshon's got his revenge narrative against his former team in Chicago. If we want to go down narrative street, if you go even a little bit lower than that, 5,100 for Rashard Matthews, which is, I think, a great value on this slate against, a terrible Indianapolis secondary. I really like that value there. And then should we chat about Sammy and Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, I guess we have to touch on that. I do want to just quickly say about Ty. We've known every week that he's gone off, that he's going to go off, and this is another one of those weeks, right? Like there hasn't been a week, at least for me, and I think we've talked about it. I don't know if you were on that week or not, but it's been very clear every single time that he was about to go off, and he's hit value and done the right things in those games. And in the games that we kind of weren't sure about, he's been awful. So I think this is a great week for him. As far as the Rams receivers, I mean, I don't know, with Woods out, it'll definitely be interesting to see how, those targets sort of get dispersed. Like, I don't know, who else is there? Like Farrell Cooper, like
Farrell Cooper and Tavon Austin, man. It's
right.
Gross.
Like, I don't think that it's a spot where they're like, oh, next man up. Like, let's get Tavon Austin 7 fucking targets next week. Like, I don't think that's it.
They do have one more outside receiver. I think it's Josh Reynolds, I think, right? He's the other outside receiver they have on that team.
Yeah,
but again, a rookie, like, not great.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see. I don't know, what is Woods been getting? 7, 8 targets. At least, yeah. I think 2 or 3. Reasonably 2 or 3 more for each of those guys, and then I don't know, maybe Gurley gets an extra target. Like, I don't think all of them just go to one place. So I think that sort of gives them a little bit of a safer floor. I don't know. I mean, do you have a strong feeling one way or the other? I'm kind of at the point right now where I'm like, I know that Kupp's going to get his. Maybe Sammy's floor raises a little bit, but his floor has been like nothing. So, like, who really gives a shit at that point, right?
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think Kupp is the cash game play here, and if you're going to shoot for the moon in GPPs, you go Sammy Watkins. I mean, like you said, Sammy's target distribution, I mean, it's been, 2 or 3 over the last couple of weeks. He's not getting a ton of looks, which is mind-boggling with how talented he is. But, yeah, I think Kupp definitely has a safer floor. And only $5K, I think he really gives you a nice, safe, mid-tier price receiver that you can really rely on this week. And I'm liking him a lot in cash lineups.
Yeah, I think, God, man, I wish that Paxton Lynch wasn't the quarterback for Denver this week, because I want to love the hell out of both of them, DT and Manny Sanders. But I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, how do you even decide where to go there? Like, do you have any sort of like gut feeling on who he's gonna be targeting? Like, how is that even gonna go?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be a gut feeling. Yeah. I'm more in love with Manny Sanders this year than Demaryius Thomas. I was a huge Demaryius Thomas truther for the last couple of years, even though his touchdown production was down. But Manny Sanders, he's such a great route runner. And against this defense, who's on the outside a bit taller and slower, we saw kind of Obi on the outside last week just get destroyed by Brandon Cooks. So I think a shorter, quicker receiver like Sanders might do a little bit better against this Oakland defense. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Paxton Lynch, if this was like, Chad Kelly, who should be the quarterback next year, I would be all about this. But you have to have some apprehension trying to get either one of these guys in your lineup.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up now. So in 3 games that Lynch has played, Sanders has about 15-ish PPR points, a little bit under. So nothing crazy, right? But I mean, I don't know. I can't get there with either of these guys, man. And I wish I could, because it's such a good matchup, but I can't figure it out. As we keep going down, I don't know, man. I mean, are we going to Corey Davis in this matchup? I guess we should take some shots on him in a GPP, right?
You have to, yeah. It's like now or never for Corey Davis. You got the great matchup. You got the mini bye to make sure you're all healthy. Unless he pops up on the injury report like Thursday with another hamstring issue, I'm definitely going to have some of him in GPPs. Like, it's very conceivable you stack Davis, Matthews, and Mariota, I feel like, and run it back with T.Y. Hilton.
Right.
Like, very, very conceivable you can run a lineup like that and have some really high ceilings in that game.
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, unless I'm missing something glaring here, I think that's sort of where I'm limiting my wide receivers. You have anybody else here?
Yeah, I mean, just on a pure volume play, again, we can see Dontrell Inman get some work against Philly, even though Darby's he's back and he actually played really well last week against Dez. But other than that, like, it's getting pretty gross as you scroll down. I know Chad Williams is going to be active this week for the Cardinals, but I'm not touching him against Jacksonville. There's really not a whole lot below this, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody else. So we can head over to tight ends. Similar situation this week. We have Kelsey a little bit more expensive than Gronk, but I mean, fuck, Gronk's at 6,900. Like if there was ever a week to play him, it has to be when he's 6,900, right?
I know the stars have aligned for Rob Gronkowski. Like this, I cannot remember a game where a healthy Rob Gronkowski got 3 targets. Like that just boggled my mind last week.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you can go right back to him. I know a lot of people got burned by him, and he'll probably see some low ownership this week because of that. So I think this could be a really good spot to get him in the lineup and really start smashing people with Gronk again. Jimmy Graham's a great buy at 58. I think just, again, the touchdown equity there. He's been really a great performer there. And with the injuries to the San Francisco secondary, especially their safeties, I really think he's a great play. Lower than that, though, I mean, kind of the more value guys, who you liking?
I mean, again, it's sort of, I'm at the point now where I just think that we need to just differentiate, right, and spread out ownership, because if you watch Red Zone and you see like the tight end leaders scroll across and you're like, wait, that guy has like 45 yards and a touchdown and he's the 3rd tight end on the week. You know what I mean? Like, you need to spread things out, and I think we mentioned it before. Tyler Kroft makes sense just from a going against Cleveland sort of perspective. I'm hoping that Jack Doyle has a little bit of a bounce back for my seasonal leagues, especially. But I think the price is fair for him. I wish it was like 4K. You know, I wish he was closer to Kroft, but I'm not mad about that. And then Olsen's returning this week, right, at 4,800.
Oh yeah.
So, do you think you have any sort of conviction that he's going to be worked right back in, or do you think they're going to sort of ease him in based on where they, Carolina is in the hunt, right? So they kind of want to. I don't think they want to just have him break his foot right away again. So.
No, but I think he's a GPP play definitely with a nice little cam stack. But I'm not going to have him in any cash lineups just because there is that potential there where he just, like you said, ease him back in, make sure he's healthy, make sure he can get through a game. So yeah, I think for 48, again, kind of that mid-tier price. I think he's a GPP only. What's your thought about Jared Cook, who's been really involved for Oakland the last couple of weeks, coming off a down game as the entire Oakland offense against New England last week, playing Denver, who has just been leaking just all year to tight ends?
Yeah, I mean, they've been awful. I mean, talk about a huge turnaround for one side of the football, right? I mean, they've allowed their opponent to hit their implied total 8 times this year. Like, I mean, you couldn't have set odds that I would have taken on that bet. But yeah, I mean, Cook seems to be sort of getting a little bit more involved, obviously at the expense of Cooper, who is just like not a human being on that team anymore, apparently. But he's just sort of selfishly, he's a guy that I typically don't get right. So I'm having a hard time clicking on him personally. But I think that's the case for a lot of people. And I think that his, I don't know, where do you see his ownership going? Like, do you think he's going to be, he seems like he's in it like no man's land price wise for tight end. So do you see him getting sort of higher owned or no?
No, I don't. I think he's like 5% max. So I think he's a great, differentiator in your lineup. Again, like you said, he's getting more involved with Carr at the expense of, Amari Cooper. That could be said about a bunch of players. Like Seth Roberts is getting more love than Amari Cooper, which is just boggles the mind.
Ridiculous.
But yeah. So I think could be an interesting differentiator if you're looking to roster, Sanders or Thomas in a lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, outside of that, it seems like this is all, oh, well, we forgot. Ricky Seals-Jones is just the fucking GOAT, apparently. So we just got to go right back to it, right?
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
There's actually going to be people that go back and roster him this week. Like not like to some like crazy extent, but there's going to be people who see last week and are like, oh, perfect. smash spot. Like he destroyed last week. He's obviously a big part of their offense.
Mm-hmm.
It was just funny seeing that. And what the hell is the other guy? Sprinkle, whatever the fuck his name
Oh
was.
yeah, Jeremy Sprinkle, man, catching touchdowns instead of instead of Vernon Davis. That was awesome.
Like, what the hell is going on, man? So that's why tight ends suck too. It's like tight ends and defense. Sometimes I'm just like, if I could just do like a QB, RB, wide receiver lineup, I think I would be way up there making money this year. But tight ends and defense have just completely torpedoed.
Yeah, dude. Like even last week, Gronk. I mean, Bartellus Bennett's catching passes, Dwayne Allen's catching passes. It's like it's so stupid. Like so frustrating.
And it's like every lineup that I had Gronk in, I had at least $100 left, and I could have just paid for Kelsey, and I actually would have had a profitable week. You know, it's so tilting. I hate DFS. It sucks, man. It's the worst.
we come back and go at it right again next week. So
exactly. We missed it so much that we had to record on Tuesday night this week.
That's right. Degenerates, that's what we are.
As we're talking about shitty positions in DFS, we can head over to defense. I don't know. You want to give me like your two favorites, and we can get over to stacks and get out of here.
Yeah, if Peterman's playing, you're playing the Chiefs. I think that even though they're set 3,700, like Nathan Peterman looked lost, like he didn't belong on an NFL field at all. I think for a GPP, I think you play the Cardinals at home against Jacksonville. You can try to count that Blake Bortles blow up game. I think that there's a chance of that as well. But I mean, if you're not paying up for Jacksonville, who's been an absolute dominant force, it's looking pretty rough. I mean, it's the top of the slate. You get the Eagles too at 36 against Trubisky. That's looking pretty good. But then those mid-tier defenses, they just either don't cause turnovers or they're in tough spots. So I think you're either paying up or paying them down for like I said, the Cardinals, and the rest of it's pretty gross.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you really, I don't know if I should say it. If you really
don't do it.
If you really want to go crazy, listen. The only success that I've had with defenses this year is like finding like the 2K or like 2,200 that ends up scoring like 6.5 points. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, you can sack Russell Wilson a couple times and hit value in San Francisco this week. I'm just saying, if you really want to go dumpster diving, it's a possibility. But like you said, I mean, the only problem I think with the Chiefs is they're going to bench Peterman probably, and Tyrod's going to come in and run like a decent offense. That's the only risk that you run. Like that's halfway through the game, Tyrod comes in and throws 3 touchdowns. So
that's right. Yeah.
God, that guy was so fucking bad, man. It was like I was just cracking up. Like I was watching and I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like I was assuming that some of them were replays and they were just nope.
It was terrible. It was so bad.
Completely new interceptions, new ways to fail in Buffalo. So I mentioned it already. I'll start off with the stacks. I think stacking up Dalton with AJ and Croft makes a ton of sense. I think he's good for at least 2 touchdowns this week, and one each to those guys. I think will make some good lineups for you, and the price isn't crazy. And then if you can hit the right combination with Russ, I think he just has so much usage right now. Like I saw somebody tweeted out a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure it's even gone up since then. Like the percentage of yards that Russell Wilson is responsible for that offense between passing and his own rushing, it was like over 80% a couple weeks ago. Like it's just nuts how they're using him right now. So I'm fully on board with that. And then Brissett to TY is a little bit cheaper that I think can definitely hit value and open up some things for you elsewhere. What do you got for stacks before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that call with Brissett to TY, and then the opposite side of that game in a total game stack, you could go Brissett TY and then bring it back with, Rashard Matthews or Corey Davis. And you can put Jack Doyle. You can go a 3-way stack with that with Brissett, Hilton, and Doyle. I think is very viable as well. On the higher end, if you can somehow fit Brady and Gronk in GPPs, I think this is the get right game for Gronk, with a good chance against a Miami secondary who's just an absolute mess. If you can somehow fit the right pieces in for a game stack for New Orleans and LA with that super high total, I think it's going to be popular. But I think there's a good chance for that to still shoot out. LA's playing really fast, and New Orleans just an absolute dominant force on offense as well. We can go back and try to run Matt Ryan, Julio Jones against Tampa. I think that's viable as well. Julio he's getting close. Like we saw a couple red zone and end zone targets on Monday. Just couldn't get the job done. But I think Ryan's almost a shoe-in for at least 250 and 2 touchdowns. And if Julio gets one of those, you're looking pretty good. Was there any other ones on the lower end that you were looking at?
No, I think that's it. I think you can take your shots there. Again, if you really wanted to get crazy and you want to hope that you hit Lynch's one completion for a touchdown, you could probably figure that out one way or the other with Tom or Sanders. But yeah, I mean, like we said, it's Tuesday night. Definitely make sure that you're following along with us on Twitter so that you can get our updated thoughts. Head over to bogeyfreedfs.com and see all my articles. I broke it down by position last week, which I think I'll do moving forward, and hit some GPP targets that way. I think that about does it. I hope everybody has a nice Thanksgiving, and good luck this week in your contests. So see ya.